Welcome to The Future of Homes and Buildings, a podcast brought to you by Schneider Electric, dedicated to sharing the latest developments in creating smart and sustainable homes and buildings. Join us as we speak with global CEOs, industry analysts, innovators, and energy optimists to tackle the biggest sustainable challenges we face at home by leveraging smart technology and digital innovation.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second episode of the Future of Homes and Buildings podcast. With homes and buildings represent up to 37% of CO2 emissions, building a better and a greener, plus renovating existing stock is absolutely crucial to reducing the impact of those buildings on the environment. This podcast constantly explores the many different ways that are helping to make homes and buildings net zero. Today, we're going to break into a brand new territory with the world of demand response. For some of us, this is just a buzzword. For some others, this might be a mystery. But for Survoltage, this is how they support homeowners and building owners to manage their energy more wisely, helping them decrease their energy bills and emissions. I'm extremely happy to welcome Jeff Knopfli today to our podcast. Jeff is the CEO and the co-founder of Survoltage. He is here with us today to share all things Survoltage are doing to help us all become more fluent in the demand response mechanisms. Jeff, it's so good to have you with us today.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Michael. I'm really pleased to be here with you today, and we try my best to make demand response crystal clear.
It's so good to have you here. Welcome, and thank you for taking the time. It's always good to chat with you and learn from you. And I've always enjoyed our conversations. Lately, I think it was 1 or 2 weeks ago, so I'm really looking forward for the discussion today. You know, usually I like to start with a simple question. Jeff, can you really tell us about Survoltage and why did you decide to create this amazing company? I've always been interested in the story behind the company. So what's your story?
Survoltage is a tech company, in fact, a tech company to serve the electric grid. Basically, we develop a software application that allows you to modulate the usage of electricity of several appliances at home, but also at the office to consume electricity at the right time. It's quite incredible, but electricity is the only product in the world that can have the three assets and benefits at the same time. It can be cheap, a lot available, and clean at the same time. And maybe several hours later, it can be all the contrary. It can be expensive, not available, and with a lot of CO2. So basically, Survoltage is here to digitalize the demand of electricity for a more sustainable world. The story is Survoltage is quite, funny in fact, and maybe it will make you laugh, Michael. My co-founder and I, we have been fond of home automation and energy management in buildings for a long time. Back in 2014, I was in front of my dishwasher at 7 p.m., wondering when I should postpone the start of the appliance. Either you start it immediately, either you start it when you have an off-peak tariff. You don't know when really to start it. In fact, it was clear for us at that time that it should just jumpstart on the grid when electricity is available and cheap. The question is no longer when should we start an appliance, but the question is when do I need the service to be done? For a dishwasher, of course, this is not a big deal. This is not using a lot of electricity. But when you think about all the electric vehicles that are coming in the next few years and that are already here, this will not be an option to try to schedule electricity at the grid level and not only inside each and every house. So for instance, Michael, your car might start charging at 1 a.m. My car tonight might charge at 3 a.m. And maybe people listening to us will start charging at 4 a.m. just because we have a battery charge different, because we need to have a 200-kilometer travel today or whatsoever. So in fact, basically, we go in a world where we will have to change the paradigm. We have been from power plant control to control the production. We will have to go to control the consumption. And in fact, why is really important for everybody listening, that we always need to balance electricity on the grid because we don't have a lot of storage option. electricity, we always have to make sure that, there is an exact balance between the production and the demand. And in fact, we will not have an option in the next few years to control consumption. Why? Just because we install more and more renewable energies that are here to support the transition, of course. But these renewable energies, solar panels or wind power plants, we can't control them. I have a simple question for you, Michael. Are you able to control the sun, or are you able to control the wind?
Unless I'm Poseidon or someone, no, I don't think I am able.
Myself, neither. So basically, we just have to control the consumption at the end of the day when there will be less electricity available from the solar panels just because this is a cloudy day. And we will have to adapt our consumption at home and in the buildings, of course. So that's why we have co-founded Survoltage. It's to help people consume electricity at the right time. This is what demand response is at the end, and we will dig into this during this podcast. And this needs to be completely transparent for the end user. Ideally, people should just never think about us. This needs to be done even without any loss of comfort at home and through the help of technology, let's say AI algorithms that can help us do this scheduling easily at the grid level. Of course, this can be done with all appliances. We don't want to sell any hardware at Survoltage. We don't design hardware. We are a software company, and we do rely on high-quality hardware that are connected and available on the shelf. And this magic already happens today in France with 1,000 homes using Schneider electric Wiser solutions.
No, this is incredible to hear. And I love the fact that you're also focusing on running it software, because I think that's indeed the future. So zooming in a little bit, you first began in France, and the French market, as you know better than me, the government keeps very, very specific approach to energy prices with strong government subsidies. Is your model working well due to this, or do you see the model could also spread to other parts and other geographies across Europe and maybe even the world? What are the different energy models and revenue streams, and how you regulate this and the differentiation between all of them?
You are completely right, Michael, by saying the fact that France, in some aspects, is really special. You are right also, and France is our home market. This is why we started there, and we are currently demonstrating the strengths of our solution in France. Of course, we do plan to expand to other European countries soon, and maybe why not in the US? Because the problem we are tackling is there in any place where you have electricity. So all over the world, basically. In fact, I would just say that France is not the best place for what we do. Basically, our nuclear strategy, our low carbonated mix that we have today for the production of electricity, at the end of the day, demand response to reduce the load of CO2 produced by electricity is not that big in France. Other European countries have more difficulties than us that still use a lot of coal-based power plant, oil-based power plants to produce electricity. And they have to install more and more renewable energies to support the transition. And as we said, they are intermittent by nature. So in fact, these countries outside of France, they even need our solution more than what we have today in this country. It's also true to say that France's market, when it comes to electricity, is special. Today, we sell our services to the TSO, the transmission system operator, and we provide these services to secure the grid, when there is an imbalance, just to avoid a blackout situation, let's say this way. And we do this with all the connected devices that we have inside our portfolio. And there are similar approaches in other European countries that pay for the same services with similar revenues. So no, at the end of the day, this is not only specific to France. And I would say even more, today, these services are available on the shelf, and there are people paying for this. Let's say, as I said just before, the TSO pays for such services. But in fact, we don't have any choice. Tomorrow, when there will be more and more renewable energies, there will be a price for people that are able to shift their load when electricity is available. So for sure, there is a business model today, and there will be business models tomorrow, because if we go to the carbon neutral situation for the production of electricity, we don't have much of a choice, in fact. And as you may know, Michael, all over the world, and especially in Europe, this year, next year, most probably, we have negative prices on the wholesale market for electricity. What does it mean? This means that basically there is a lot of solar power that is being produced, but unfortunately, it is not consumed. So there are people producing that pay consumer to consume. I mean, this is something really, really strange when you think about it. And so basically, we are here to help to modulate the usage of electricity on the grid to make sure that this CO2-free energy is used at the right time.
This is extremely crucial, because if I look at the energy prices in Europe over the past three and a half years, was consistently increasing, in some cases up to 25%, 30% year over year. In some cases, it went up 50%. So I'm just going to take an average of, let's say, 20, 25%. And then you see the existential problem that we're facing was the need to electrify so we can keep up the 1.5 degrees trajectory, or at least really, really try doing so. And then I look at also all the missed opportunities, to your point, that we're producing energy, clean energy that we're not consuming. It makes me think heavily that the journey is still vastly open. There is a lot of potential to what can be done and what should be done. So having bi-directional grid, being able to facilitate to homeowners to inject back to the grid what they don't use, having the ability to go completely into island mode, and how you regulate this with virtual power plants. So it starts inside the home and in the grid, but the connection is super important. And this is something you guys are fantastic in doing so. But you also know we are very happy that homeowners today, actually, we can provide them the Survoltage services inside our Wiser platform, which is a state-of-the-art platform that does home energy management system with a lot of functionalities and integration beyond the home energy management system that really empowers the homeowners be in full control, not just of their energy, but of their home altogether. And we have it in different parts of the world, but of course in France. For our listeners, let me give you a bit of context. As I said, the Wiser is a home energy management system app. So there is hardware aspect of it, but it's mainly an app. And what it does, it demystifies the buzzword of home energy management system, make it simply managing your consumption of energy and makes it wiser by avoiding a waste of energy. So to your point earlier, Jeff, it's make you use the energy when you want it, makes you also do the arbitrage of when to use which energy. So when do you use your existing battery, when you can charge your car, when you use your dishwasher, hopefully not at 4 a.m. in the morning, or maybe if that's the right time to do so. But it also can activate intensive electrical loads when the energy is cheaper in tariff. For example, heating the water heater or charging your EV at the cheapest time of the day. It also allows you to consume the maximum amount of energy coming from renewable sources, whether it's your own solar panels or even from the grid. It does give you that power to make those choices, and it can do the choices on your behalf. Most homeowners didn't really pay attention to energy usage until 3 years ago, when energy prices skyrocketed all across Europe. The energy bill increase, as we have seen in our recent surveys, people saw a massive spike in prices that swiftly made them behave incredibly different to decrease their energy bills. But we have also seen in our own surveys that people do not necessarily know what to do accurately to decrease those energy bills. As a striking example, the very first action people did to decrease their energy consumption was to switch off the lights. This is great, but I would call it just an appetizer, as it only tackles 2 to 3% of your bill. As for the decreasing peak, which is what Survoltage helps to achieve, you need to do the whole lot more than just switching on and off the light at the right times or when you don't need it. And this is what helped them to do more through Wiser. It takes the burden off of the homeowner working on what it really needs to be done to decrease your energy consumption, and the app does that for you. Although I'm not reducing the comfort and the ease on the sophistication of living inside the home. Now, with these prerequisites, I'm coming back to our partnership with Survoltage. As I mentioned already, your services are available now on the Wiser platform. Jeff, can you please explain a little bit what is that this really offers to the homeowners and what do they expect from our partnership together?
Of course, wiser customers, in fact, they can connect easily their devices of their choice to Survoltage in a few clicks. This can be a boiler, a heater, a heat pump, an electric vehicle, or even whatever appliances that can be behind a smart plug. Then everything will be done transparently for the customer. It means that Survoltage is monitoring the grid and will slightly modulate the energy usage of some of these appliances when this is needed. And this will be done based on the type of appliance. Sometimes it can stop an appliance, sometimes it can slightly modulate the usage and postpone the usage or even start it before. To make this completely clear, let's take some examples, Michael. If today, in your region, there is a lot of sun at 3 p.m. and few people are consuming electricity, then we may turn on your boiler to store this energy with hot water. On the contrary, if tonight at 7 p.m., everybody is coming home, cooking, we might preheat your house at 6:30 p.m. and then reduce your heating system for 15 minutes. This will avoid starting polluting power plants that run gas, oil, coal during the peak and that produce a lot of CO2. This is basically what we are going to do. Survoltage is really complementary to Wiser because Wiser has all the tariffs. So we can play with the tariffs inside the house, but we can play also with what happened on the grid. And we both do it completely transparently with no impact on the comfort. And this is a win-win situation. The end consumer must have a monetary or non-monetary advantage to participate to the stability, but let's say the word flexibility of the grid. This is of course what we do. And at the end of the day, you really consume green electricity, which is sustainable. And this is made possible thanks to digital solutions like the one provided by Schneider Electric and Survoltage.
This is incredible. Last time we spoke, Jeff, you told me that you have already more than 25,000 users in Survoltage platform in France. This means you have already started to see some patterns in consumer behavior. I'm really eager, and I think our listeners are too, on what customer behaviors are seen or you're observing after using Survoltage. So what does change after using Survoltage? Do you radically see changes in their behavior? Is it an eye-opener for them and also for you on what those behaviors are, what are those motives, and what drives them?
In fact, it's quite amazing to see that on average, people who started monitoring their consumption, they got between 12 to 18% of their electricity bills without any flexibility operation. So people need already to understand how they consume to really understand how they can reduce. When people participate to flexibility challenges, off-peak challenges, they usually make a lot of effort to consume as little energy as possible. It's important to understand there are two ways to do this. Of course, people need to understand that consuming electricity at 7 p.m. does not have the same price in CO2 as consuming electricity at 3 p.m. So when they participate, they can shift some load manually, and there will be no robot in the world that will be able to postpone your meal, change your meal by a cold meal or whatsoever. So there can be manual actions if people want to participate to this transition. But of course, Michael, we are not going to our thermostat set point each and every day, changing at 7 p.m. the set points. So of course, this needs to be done automatically with all the devices and connected devices and hardware that are available on the shelf that can participate automatically to this transition. And this is where the magic happens with our integration today. And thanks to partnership like ours, with Wiser, we managed to incentivize consumers to shift consumption with price signals, extra advantages, and to have the lowest bill for electricity as possible. These programs, basically, they cover the second demand response mechanism because people will shift their demand and adapt to the grid and adapt to the renewable energies.
This is really great. But listen, we've been talking a lot about homes, and we know that homes represent 22% of the global greenhouse gas. But then there is the remaining of the challenge of the 37%, which is for buildings. And those buildings can be any types of buildings. So are you also working with business owner managing bigger size buildings, and on really how you can help them decrease their peak, and how do we really consume the energy a bit wiser? What is your approach towards those small businesses and business owners?
That's a good question. A lot of people are contacting us these days just to ask us to support tertiary buildings, offices, warehouses. There are a lot of people interested in such flexibility operations. We basically operate with the same method as for residential, and we play with heating system, CVCs, boilers that are in these large buildings. The goal is to operate on the 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. slot when all these buildings are consuming a lot. These buildings are responsible for the peak in the morning. And we, as citizens at home, we are mostly responsible for the peak at 7 p.m. So basically, for large buildings, we work on shifting their energy consumption earlier in the morning. For instance, we try to preheat the building and make sure the electricity is used at this time. And the benefits are numerous for business owners. First, we do an audit on how they consume, and this can help them to reduce by 20% their electricity bills without any flexibility operation. And then we pay them to help them reduce the global cost of energy with the flexibility operations by shifting the load earlier in the morning. And of course, a lot of companies want to go with sustainable operations. So we help them on the communication for the actions they are doing in their building in favor of the energy transition. This is really important for them, but this is also really important for the employees, because more and more employees want to have a good job, a good salary, and whatsoever, of course, but that more and more people do pay attention to the management of the transition inside their company. So for us, tertiary buildings and homes are really complementary. In the morning, tertiary buildings, they take a lot of electricity, and we have a lot of things to do with them. And at the end of the day, people go home after that day, and they consume at home. So the two portfolios help us to have a global view on the electricity usage.
This is very, very, very powerful and very informative. I'm amazed how digital technology can really help make the energy visible, because this is actually a first step. Now, there is a question I'm sure everybody is asking themselves after hearing you describe the services that Survoltage offers. How do you make money? Your services is free of charge, if I understand correctly. So what is your business model?
Yeah, you're right. Our service is free of charge. Of course, we are a business. In fact, we are paid for the balancing services that we propose to electricity players like transmission system operators, distribution system operators, which missions are to make you and me, Michael, at home or at the office, have electricity at each and every second. And as they want to balance the electricity usage and the electricity production, they need extra services to make sure that this balance is okay. We also help some suppliers, electricity suppliers, to optimize their portfolio, their purchases of electricity, and to make sure that they buy the cheapest energy. And usually, this is the energy that has been produced when it is a lot available, and especially with solar or wind power that is on the market. And finally, and this is quite amazing, the wholesale market of electricity is our customer. When you stop consuming electricity, we can sell it the same price as if it were produced by a power plant.
This is incredible. So basically, you're selling the unconsumed electricity back to the market, at the exact same price of the produced energy. This is incredible. This is amazing how you do it, because I think it also makes it more feasible from a business model perspective. So this is the type of solutions that we need to make things happen and to move towards a more net zero buildings and home. So from electricity network perspective, so utilities, you are benefiting them firstly by avoiding consuming energy at peak times, which is one of their biggest pain points, helping them reduce the strain on their grid, as well as potential for them to have to buy extra electricity at a very high tariff on the energy market, or even building a new nuclear reactor, which is the case in France, for instance. So your little app has a huge impact, which is something we love in Schneider Electric. As we like to say, for our partners and customers who are making sustainable impacts, you are definitely leading as an impact maker, and if I may add, a huge impact maker. On the sustainability aspect, renewables have seen steady growth everywhere in the world. The awareness is getting higher, the understanding is getting higher, the regulations are getting more strict. There is a lot of initiatives by every country, by every company, in every aspect, which is incredible, because that's what we have been asking for decades, and Schneider has been leading the path. I just read that the number of solar panels installations have pretty much doubled in the households since 2023 in France. Are you also buying electricity from home owners or business owners so you can help arbitrate the way and the balance to the grid, or make it available somewhere where there is a high demand to avoid a non-renewable energy consumption? How would you define Survoltage as an aggregator in this equation?
That's exactly it. Survoltage is definitely an aggregator. We do aggregate buildings that have the ability to be flexible and sometimes consume less or sometimes consume more electricity depending on the production of the renewable. At the moment, we are not buying electricity from home owners. We are providing the services to the TSO, the distribution system operator, and to electricity suppliers. Our mission is really to make a better usage of energy in buildings, which in fact, Michael, they already contain a very large capacity of electricity storage. And this is done without any lithium-ion batteries, even though we will have more and more of them. This is in fact the building inertia, your boiler, and a lot of other appliances that in fact are a kind of storage that we do aggregate to sell these services and so avoid the production of CO2 at the end of the day.
Thank you, Jeff, for the time today. It's always incredible and always eye-opening to have our chats together and have those informative discussions with you. I'm sure our listeners enjoyed it. I'm always blown away by the innovative approach you have at Survoltage. And I'm really eager to see you succeed more and more and deploy Survoltage in a wider way, if the word applies. Before we close, I usually like to ask my guests one question. What is your personal tip to decrease the energy consumption at your home?
The first thing, my tip is really to people try to see how they consume. And as you said before, to make electricity visible. This is the first things to be done that help people try to understand how they consume, which appliances consume a lot, which idle appliances are always running inside your house. That's the first thing to be done. Then to understand when you consume electricity and which loads can be just shifted. Start by playing manually, see the results. I'm quite sure you will be convinced by these results. And then, of course, try to automate this with solutions like Wiser, so that part of the work is being done automatically for you, and you will be consuming electricity at the best tariff, and you will be on a sustainable approach of consuming. And of course, Michael in France, and soon in other countries, then connect everything to Survoltage.
Jeff, I had so much fun and I learned a lot talking to you today. It's always great to talk with you, and I look forward to our next chat. Thank you again for being us today and giving us the time. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm sure our listeners did too.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And thank you to all our listeners in our series of podcasts, The Future of Homes and Buildings. It was a pleasure to be with all of you today, discovering one more way that we can all take to make our homes more efficient and more sustainable. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Listening to Jeff's story on demand response with Survoltage app, I'm sure, like me, you are now thinking on how demand response management can help you in your home and your energy consumption, and what the next improvements that we all can do. Keep your eyes open for our next episode with more insight and more guests, always in the spirit of finding building blocks to better build and renovate homes and buildings to be more energy efficient and more sustainable. Thank you all again, and talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Future of Homes and Buildings podcast by Schneider Electric. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so that you don't miss an episode. If you liked this episode, we appreciate you leaving us a rating or review. For more information on Schneider Electric's latest innovations, go to sc.com and look for the Homes of the Future page, or follow Schneider Electric on LinkedIn. The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. Topics discussed should not be undertaken as financial, economic, legal, business, tax, or investment advice. The information, statements, views, and opinions shared should not be construed as the provision of advice by Schneider Electric, or as an offer to buy or sell any products or services, or to make or consider any investment or course of action.